Good evening, Bible study students. Welcome to Wednesday Bible study. Good to see everybody joining us again tonight. We are proceeding with our series titled Israel's Troubles in Paradise. Do you think they've had enough trouble yet? No! We're on part 5. Got 3 more to go after tonight. Tonight, part 5, Trouble with Philistines. After 40 years of oppression by the Philistines, we have no record in the Bible of Israel ever crying out to God for deliverance. So this breaks the cycle that we've seen in the book of Judges where, remember the cycle, they're at peace, then they go into idolatry because they're fat and happy, and then they begin to worship idols, and then the Lord allows them to be overrun by enemies, and then they cry out to Him. But in this cycle, the crying out to the Lord portion is missing. The Lord doesn't wait on them any longer. It's been 40 years. They have been putting up with this Philistine oppression where the Philistines are controlling them and mistreating them and stealing their resources. And it seems like after 40 years, they were just content to live that way. In fact, we're going to read in our lesson tonight where they said, the Philistines are ruling over us. And they didn't do anything about it, apparently. But God couldn't wait any longer because He's got a plan with these people. Remember, they're part of God's plan to bring the Savior to the world. And He's not going to let that plan get derailed no matter what. And so the Lord steps in this particular instance after 40 years, and He raises up a man named Samson. He's not going to completely obliterate the Philistines. The Philistines are going to be around for years, for several more generations, but He's going to begin the process of overcoming the Philistines for Israel. So the Lord raises up this man, and they will eventually overcome the Philistines, but it will be in the reign of David. But even when David overcomes the Philistines, they're not done away with. Israel will not ever get rid of the Philistines, but it will be Babylon that comes in and gets rid of the Philistines later on. Samson was unlike, just like this cycle's different, Samson is also different from the other judges that we've seen in the book of Judges. He did not lead an army. He did not work in a group. He always worked as a lone warrior. His role focused mostly on his personal vendettas that he has against the Philistines. It seems that Samson enjoyed irritating them. And that's good because it seems that that's what God's plan was for him, was to irritate the Philistines. The Lord said before he was born, He will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. So God makes this supernatural initiative of bringing a deliverer in before Israel even asks for it. And He's doing that to maintain His plan to bring the Savior into the world. So that's where we are tonight. Jackie, let's start off and read our key scriptures here about Moses foretelling that there's going to be troubles for Israel in the promised land.
The Lord said to Moses, "Behold, you are about to lie down with your fathers, and this people will arise and play the prostitute with their foreign gods of the land into the midst of which they are going. And they will abandon me and break my covenant, which I have made with them.
Okay.
Then my anger will be kindled against them on that day, and I will abandon them and hide my face from them, and they will be consumed. And many evils and troubles will find them."
Troubles will find them, and troubles have found them again. 40 years of troubles from the Philistines, and they don't seem to be too concerned about doing anything about it. They seem to be putting up with it. But the Lord's not going to put up with it. So let's talk a little bit about the Philistines. Here's our map. Here's our tribal allocations of the 12 tribes. And hopefully you're getting a little familiar with this by now. But look right down here, right in the area where Judah should have been all the way to the Mediterranean. They couldn't make it. They could not break through the area of the Philistines, or we call it Philistia. This map is showing 3 of their cities, 3 coastal cities. There's 2 more here Gath, and Ekron. And those are inland cities. But those are the 5 cities. That would be the 5 cities of the Philistines. And Judah, the leadership tribe, the tribe with the highest population, or one of the highest populations, was unable, and we're going to read this scripture in just a few minutes, unable to drive them out of the land. All right. Let's look at this. The Philistines were one of Israel's most persistent and dangerous enemies during the time of Judges and the early monarchy. That would be Saul and King David later on. Israel's troubles with the Philistines were not just military, but also cultural and spiritual, as Israel struggled to remain true to the Lord and idol-free. So it wasn't always overt acts that the Philistines did against Israel, but just their presence and their proximity was a constant temptation to Israel towards idolatry, and a constant threat towards Israel's security, because they're right there. Notice they're right here by Judah and Dan, and our hero tonight, Samson, is from Dan, right there where he can just deal with the Philistines directly. They were a seafaring people. They did not start here. They came from over here in the Mediterranean. Most people think from the Aegean area, which is around present-day Greece, the Aegean Sea. By the time of the Judges, which is where we're studying tonight, they had settled along the coastal plain of Canaan right here, forming a pentopolis. That's 5 cities that were aligned together: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. They were well organized. They were military advanced. The Bible speaks of them specifically having iron working. And later on, I think it's in Samuel, it specifically says that the Israelites had to go to the Philistines to get their iron instruments sharpened. So somehow they managed to keep Israel from adopting this new technology called iron, which gave the Philistines a tremendous advantage militarily. And those 5 cities were politically unified, so they helped each other. They worked as a unit. The first major mention of the Philistines as enemies of Israel comes in the book of Judges. That's where we are tonight. They oppressed Israel during the time of Samson, one of the last judges of Israel. And he is the last judge, I believe, in the book of Judges. I mean, is that right? Not sure. I just guessed on that one. Not sure. Despite his, I think it is. Yeah, I think he is. We'll find out later. Despite his moral failings, Samson was used by the Lord to begin delivering Israel from the Philistines. His personal vendettas against them culminated in his death. He worked against them until he died, or until they killed him, and he killed them, when he brought down the temple of Dagon, killing more Philistines in his death than in his life. One of the most humiliating defeats of Israel came during the ministry of Samuel. This is where we are in the adult Bible class, when the Philistines took the Ark of the Covenant. Just covered that Sunday. This marked a spiritual low point for Israel, as they had treated the Ark like a lucky charm that they could bring into battle, but the Lord never told them they could do that. In fact, it was to remain in the tabernacle, in the holy place, hidden from view, and so they dishonored the Lord by taking the ark into battle, and they lost it, and it was the Philistines who took it home with them for 7 months. A little bit more about the Philistines. Later on, King Saul is going to fight with the Philistines repeatedly, but he has limited success with them. His failure to fully defeat them is going to lead to the rise of King David. Remember, he defeated Goliath from Gath, Goliath the Philistine. Oh, it says it right there, the giant from Gath. David continued to win victories against the Philistines during Saul's reign, and then even more so when David became king. He was even more victorious against the Philistines, to the point where the Philistines left Israel alone, but they didn't go away. David eventually subdued the Philistines, breaking their military power, expanding Israel's borders, but he didn't expand it all the way to the Mediterranean where it was supposed to go. However, the Philistines remained as a threat off and on for generations. Philistines were not just physical enemies, but they represented a spiritual threat due to their gods, their idols, especially Dagon, who was in direct opposition to the worship of the Lord Yahweh. The Philistines were later destroyed by Babylon. I said a lot of that twice, but that's so if you weren't listening the first time, hopefully you got it the second time. All right, so this is a little background about why the Philistines were there. Because Judah failed to drive them out. They were supposed to. Why didn't they? Let's read the story, Jackie.
But Joshua spoke to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, saying, You are a numerous people and have great power. You shall not have one lot only, but the hill country shall be yours. For though it is a forest, you shall clear it, and to its farthest borders it shall be yours. For you shall drive out the Canaanites, even though they have iron chariots, and though they are strong.
Now, in our lesson a few weeks ago about Canaanites, we learned that Canaanites is not just a group of people, but it's a collective term as well for all of the people in the land of Canaan, including the Philistines. And it says, Joshua, this is Joshua, saying before they go into the land, or actually they were already working through the land, he said, it doesn't matter if they have iron chariots, because we don't have them. But Joshua said, it doesn't matter because the Lord, because the Lord is on our side. We're doing what the Lord told us to do. We're fighting these battles because the Lord told us to fight them. And so it doesn't matter if they have iron chariots. So what happened to Judah? Why didn't they do it, Jackie?
And Judah took Gaza with its territory, Ashkelon with its territory, and Ekron with its territory.
Okay, so that's 3 of the 5 cities of the Philistines.
Now the Lord was with Judah.
And the Lord was with them.
And they took possession of the hill country. But they could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley, because they had iron chariots.
Oh, boy. Sounds weak, doesn't it? It sounds very weak. Joshua said it doesn't matter if they have iron chariots, and look at this. The Lord was with Judah. What was the problem? It was Judah was the problem, not the iron chariots, Phil. That's minus 50 points off of that one. So the problem was not the iron chariots. Problem was Judah. It wasn't. The Lord was with them. They didn't have the faith, or they didn't take the action. But for whatever reason, it was on Judah that the Philistines never got kicked out of that area. And so they remained in the promised land. That area is part of the promised land. But there they are, residing in the promised land, and Israel just gives up and decides, well, we're just going to leave them there. It's easier to just leave them there. All right. So that's how our story begins tonight. Now we're going to begin reading in Judges 13 with this. Yes, sir, Phil.
The last judge was
Samuel. Right. Samuel considered, but in the book of Judges was the context of that. So, no, I think just in the book of Judges. But thank you for bringing that. Ready, Jackie? Here we go.
Now the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord handed them over to the Philistines for 40 years.
All right, hold on, because that is plain as day. The reason the Philistines ruled over them and suppressed them and oppressed them for 40 years, right here. Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, directly causing this problem with the Philistines, trouble with the Philistines, okay?
And there was a man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was infertile and had not given birth to any children.
It almost sounds like her name was infertile. His name was Manoah and she was infertile. She was known for that, apparently. Interestingly, we never get her name in this story. Strange, isn't it? Don't know why, but we never get Samson's mother's name. It's always Manoah's wife. All right, so she was not able to have children, and she had not previously had any children, okay? And now, look at this. You've got a handout tonight about the first 7 appearances of the angel of the Lord. This is number 7. The angel of the Lord has already appeared to 6 other people in the Bible. This is number 7. It's not the last time, but it's as far as I went on the handout tonight. So there you go, down at the bottom. And it's very strange how this happens. He always appears only to the infertile woman, whatever her name was. Manoah's wife or Samson's mother, we don't know what to call her. But the angel always appears to her. And And when Manoah needs to talk, he has to wait until the angel comes and visits the mother, and then he can get in on the conversation. Interesting how that played out. Amen. You ready?
Then the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, "Behold now, you are infertile and have not given birth, but you will conceive and give birth to a son. And now be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. For behold, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb." All right, so this Nazarite idea comes from the book of Numbers. What chapter is it? 13? 6. Okay. It's on your other handout tonight. Notice that it does not have anything to do with the town of Nazareth. It comes from the Hebrew word what? Nezer. Or Nazar. Yeah. And what does it mean? Consecrated.
Consecrated. Y'all have all the answers tonight, don't you? It's right there on the answer sheet. Good job. Good job reading and paying attention, class. It's a start. Got some participation. But look at this. Look at this. To the woman, be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. She's not taking the Nazarite vow, but this is part of the Nazarite vow, and she's commanded to do this part, but not the rest of it. But it's already understood what this Nazarite vow is. As you can see on the handout, it was clearly defined back in Numbers 6. Thank you. And so this boy is going to be a Nazarite whether he wants to be or not. This is a little bit different. There are a few people, I think it's on your sheet, that it talks about those that were Nazarites from birth. Is that right? Samson, Samuel, and John the Baptist? Is that what your sheet says? Yes. Okay, I think that sheet is correct. So those three people didn't get to choose if they were going to be devoted and consecrated to the Lord, but it seems like they all accepted it. And as far as we know, John the Baptist and Samuel and Samson all lived by this Nazarite vow, except we know that Samson broke his vow, right? But then he continued to live it out after he broke it. All right, so we'll cover that. Yes, sir?
Just a question. What about when Samuel killed King Agag and just hewed him into pieces? Was that
Did he touch him?
I don't know.
The vow was not to touch any dead thing, but yes, he did kill a man with the sword and it hacked him to pieces, basically. So I don't know. Maybe he did break his vow. But if you break your vow, there's a provision in the Nazarite vow. Surprise! There's a provision if you blow it. Thank the Lord. That's the Lord's way. He gives us a way to recover once we blow it because we're not going to be perfect. If you haven't learned that yet, just go ahead and get ready to learn it. We're not going to be perfect, and so if you blow it, there's a way to get back in, and it's in there in the Nazarite vow. So he's going to be a Nazarite from the womb, and one more very important thing, Jackie.
And he will begin to save Israel from the hands of the Philistines.
That's his purpose. That's his calling in life. That's why the angel's there. That's why the boy's going to be a Nazarite. It all has to do with this. He's going to be the next judge, the next deliverer. He's going to fight against the Philistines for the Lord and for Israel. All right, so now Manoah, he missed out. He missed the supernatural show. He didn't get to see the angel. He has to take his wife's word for it. Does he believe her? Well, sometimes she exaggerates, right? So he pleads with the Lord for the angel to come back because he wants more info. She wouldn't give him the details that he wanted. He needs details. Okay.
Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, "A man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God. Very awesome. So I did not ask him where he came from, nor did he tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and now you shall not drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing, for the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death."
I don't know if she wrote it down, but she got it exactly right. That's exactly what the angel said. She quoted it back to him verbatim, as far as I can tell. And so she's being a good source of information. She paid attention to what he said. She knows what he said. Then
Manoah pleaded with the Lord and said, Lord, please let the man of God whom you have sent come to us again, so that he may teach us what we are to do for the boy who is to be born.
it seems like this is a godly man. It seems like this is a man who's following Yahweh. He's trying to obey the law. He's trying to serve the Lord. He wants to do what's right. He wants to raise this boy in the right way. He wants to be a good father. If this boy's going to be a special person, if he's going to deliver Israel, Manoah needs to know, what do I tell him? What do I teach him? What do I do with him? Do I need to get him a 24-hour gym pass when he turns 13 so we can maximize his growth spurt when he becomes a teenager and get him start training early? I don't know. What do I do?
And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her.
Why? I have an idea. Maybe when they're together, the environment is not conducive for an angel visit. Just thinking, Maybe the presence of the angel being there before Manoah gets there sets a different tone for the conversation. I don't know. But the angel never came to Manoah. Came always to the woman. So God listened, sent the angel back. She's in the field sitting. He's not there. So what happens?
So the woman hurried and ran and told her husband, Behold, the man who came the other day has appeared to me. So Manoah got up and followed his wife. And when he came to the man, he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to the woman? And he said, I am. Then Manoah said, Now when your words are fulfilled, what shall be the boy's way of life and his vocation?
What am I supposed to do with him? But look at this. Any Jew would have perked up their ears when the angel said, I am. Because that's the name that the Lord gave to Moses. I am that I am. So it seems like this is one of those times in the Old Testament where an angel of the Lord appears, but he speaks as if he is the Lord. So yes, he's a messenger, but a lot of Bible students, Bible scholars think that this is the pre-incarnate Jesus. This is Jesus before he was born, and it could have very well been. It looks like a man to them. We know Jesus looked like a man. They didn't know what Jesus was going to look like, but he definitely could have said anything in the world, but he chose to say this on purpose. This is on purpose, right? It wasn't an accident. The angel could not just usurp the Lord's name. That wouldn't have been good. So he says, I am, and he says, now, when this comes to pass, there's no doubt here that it's going to happen when your words are fulfilled. So they've got faith. They're believing that what this man said is the word of the Lord. Okay?
And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, The woman shall pay attention to all that I said. She shall not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. She shall keep all that I commanded.
He didn't answer the question, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah?
Yeah. He said what was important. The rest of it is not important.
Yeah, but Manoah wants to do, how do I raise the boy? And what's his way of life? And what's his vocation? What's he going to do? Didn't answer that question.
He asked him. Says it doesn't matter.
It wasn't a good question, was it?
No.
It was an invalid question. Invalid question. Doesn't matter. Apparently, Manoah is not going to have much to do with making this Samson the deliverer that God wants him to be. Now, I'm sure he's going to mold his character and his life to a certain extent, but this plan is not dependent on Manoah. It's not. Really, it seems like it doesn't really matter what Manoah does. Samson is going to be who God made him to be. So he just reiterated exactly what he told the woman and what the woman has already told Manoah. So Manoah's heard this twice, once from his wife and once from the angel. And he quits asking questions there. And then this happens.
And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, switch the slide. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please let us detain you so that we may prepare a young goat for you.
Okay, they're going to feed the angel. That sounds like a nice thing to do.
But the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord.
I don't know what they thought it was, but it looked like a man, talked like a man, acted like a man, but he didn't want to eat like a man, right? Go ahead.
And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name, so that when your words are fulfilled, we may honor you?
Another bad question.
But the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, for it is wonderful?
This word that's translated wonderful here also means incomprehensible, beyond comprehension, beyond understanding. It's another confirmation that this might have been the Lord God Almighty himself standing there in a body, communicating this message to them. Yes, it was an angel, which is a messenger, but the messenger could have been the Lord himself. He says, my name is wonderful. That's all he says. Not that this is my name, but the name is wonderful. I can't even tell you my name. You couldn't comprehend what my name is. Again, it kind of sounds like the Lord. And now look at this. This is going to be another incredible thing that happens.
So Manoah took the young goat along with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to the Lord. And he performed wonders while Manoah and his wife looked on.
This he is in capital in this version of the Bible, indicating that the translators believe that this he performed wonders is the Lord performed wonders. Maybe it was the angel, but the angel may have been the Lord himself. Okay, keep reading.
For it came about when the flame went up from the altar towards heaven, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar.
What? What does that look like? Can he do that? Oh, yes, he can do that. Yeah, he can do that. He went up in the flame that was coming off of the offering, as if to say the offering was accepted by the Lord. Okay?
When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell on their faces to the ground. Now the angel of the Lord did not appear to Manoah or his wife again. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. So Manoah said to his wife, we will certainly die, for we have seen God.
He thought they did see the Lord. He said, this is God that we saw, and now we're going to have to die for it. Well, that wasn't real smart. He wasn't thinking correctly, right? Because they just got this plan from the Lord, right? They can't die. The boy's not there yet. Okay. But he's emotional. It scared him. He's, when you're talking and you can't think because you're so excited or upset, that's kind of the condition of Manoah right there. He wasn't thinking that through clearly. Okay? But his wife was. Look, she's got the answer.
Always.
Not always.
But his wife said to him, if the Lord had desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering
Exactly.
from our hands.
Right.
Nor would he have shown us all these things.
Right.
Nor would he have let us hear things like this at this time.
Exactly. So she's got 3 good reasons why they're not going to die, even if they did see the Lord. So good for her. Still don't know her name, though.
So the woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson, and the child grew up, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him when he was in Manahadan, between Zorah and Eshtaol.
This word stir right here is very interesting. We don't have this mentioned about anybody else in the Old Testament. It's unique to Samson. It also means to agitate or to impel. It's unique to Samson among all leaders in the Old Testament. It's an unseen inner prompting that he felt, but it's private. It's internal. It's like the pounding of your heart when you can feel it. Nobody else knows about it, but Samson knew about it. There's similar words used for the other judges, Othniel, Gideon, Jephthah, even Saul and David have words mentioned similar to this, but it's not exactly the same word. And let's talk about this. How did you call it? What did you say?
Mahanadan.
Mahanadan. The Dan part, if you haven't noticed, a lot of times these hyphenated city names, the second part of the hyphen will be the territory that it's in. It's like Tomball, Texas. It's in the area of Dan, the region of Dan, which is kind of like our states, though they were kind of independent, but yet part of a whole nation. So it was in Dan, but this Mahana means the camp of Dan. And what we find out is Dan has not occupied their entire territory. If you remember, we've read some other scriptures where it said the Danites had to go up into the hills because the Amorites wouldn't let them come down out of the hills. And now here, it sounds like the people of the tribe of Dan are camping in tents. They have not inhabited any of the cities of the Canaanites. They haven't run the Canaanites off yet. They're still camping in tents. So it sounds like they're not enjoying the promised land like they're supposed to. They're still camping out in tents because they don't have enough power to push the Canaanites out of their territory. So that's where the Lord begins to stir him, and he's probably thinking, this is not God's plan for us. We are not supposed to be in the promised land living in tents. It's not what Moses promised. It's not what Joshua promised. We're not coming into the land of promise to camp. We're supposed to be living here. We're supposed to be in the land flowing with milk and honey. And we're out here in tents. And that's when Samson began to get this stirring feeling like, I've got to do something about this. This is not right. My people, the Danites, we're not living like the Lord says that we should live in the promised land. We're here living in tents. We're just camping in Canaan's happy land. That used to be an old song, camping in Canaan's happy land. You're not supposed to camp in Canaan. You're supposed to move in to the houses and the cities. But here they are, and the Lord's stirring up this man like, I've got to do something about it. Okay. All right. So now he's come of age. He's a young man, and what do you know? He's looking for a woman.
Then Samson went down to Timnah, and he saw a woman in Timnah, one of the daughters of the Philistines. So he came back and told his father and mother, I saw a woman in Timnah, one of the daughters of the Philistines. So now get her for me as a wife.
Now, on face value, this sounds terrible. Here's our hero. Here's our deliverer. Here's our boy born from the angel of the Lord. And he wants a woman of the Philistines. It sounds bad, but hold on. There's more to the story. Let's keep reading.
But his father and his mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all our people that you go to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? Yet Samson said to his father, Get her for me because she's right for me.
Get her for me because she's right. And I've read this before, and I thought that means she's got the right color, she's got the right size, she's got the right proportions that he likes, right? That's not what it means. It means this is God's plan for me. It's a Philistine, though. But Samson says, get her because this is God's plan for me. It sounds weird. It sounds like this is not what he should be doing. But remember, his calling in life is to begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. He's got to interact with them. And this is a way for him to begin his interaction with the Philistines. So get her for me because she's the one that the Lord wants me to have. Now, I'm making this up, but that's what it sounds like to me as we go through the story. You can decide if you agree with me or not. Okay? However,
his father and mother did not know that this was of the Lord, for he was seeking an occasion against the Philistines. And at that time, the Philistines were ruling over Israel.
Oh, well, I guess you got to agree with me now. Because this was of the Lord. Get her for me because she's right, not just because I like the way she looks, but it's of the Lord. This is what the Lord wants him to do. His father and his mother didn't know, but Samson knew. Somehow Samson knew, I've got to get with one of these women, and it's going to be my inroad into the Philistines. So let's see this. Let's see how it works, because the Philistines are ruling over Israel. Not a good situation.
Then Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother and came as far as the vineyards of Timnah. And behold, the young lion came roaring toward him, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, so that he tore it apart as one tears apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. So he went down and talked to the woman, and she looked pleasing to Samson.
All right, so somehow they got separated, and the mother and the father were not there at the time of the lion, but the lion came, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. And what was the purpose of this? I suppose to show Samson what he could do with the Spirit of the Lord enabling him. There was really no explanation here, except that the lion was roaring towards him. The lion was coming to attack him. And so maybe out of desperation or self-preservation, but the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and he tore it apart. He tore it into pieces, as if you would split up a young goat, which was familiar with them for sacrificing. So he tore it into parts, as if it was a sacrifice to the Lord. But he didn't tell him what happened. He goes down, he finds the woman, and now it specifically says she looks good to him. Okay?
When he returned later to take her, he turned aside to look at the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the body of the lion. So he took out the honey on his hands and went on, eating as he went. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it. But he did not tell them that he had took the honey out of the body of the lion.
Okay. I've been talking a lot, and we're behind, so let's keep going, Jackie.
One question.
Yes.
Does corpses of animals?
Yes, that's the dead.
Okay.
Yes, so he did violate his thank you. It'll come up later, but yes, he violated his Nazirite vow by touching, presumably he touched the lion as he was getting the honey. It doesn't say that, but we're assuming, and then killing it, it would be touching it at some point, I would say, unless it was not quite dead when he stopped touching it. Who knows? We're splitting hairs here, but yes, it sounds like he possibly broke his vow at this point.
Then his father went down to the woman, and Samson held a feast there, for the young men customarily did this. When they saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him.
Okay, so he goes down to Philistine country. He's going to marry this woman. This is like the marriage party here. And we never hear of Samson having any friends. And so he gets some rented friends here. They brought down 30 people to be with him. To be in the party, the wedding party.
Then Samson said to them, "Let me now propose."
Now, these are not Israelites. It says they're companions, but these are Philistines. So 30 Philistines come to Samson's wedding party, okay?
Let me now propose a riddle for you. If you actually tell me the answer within the 7 days of the feast and solve it, then I will give you 30 linen wraps and 30 outfits of clothes. But if you are unable to tell me, then you shall give me 30 linen wraps and 30 outfits of clothes.
Now, these were special clothes. These were party clothes. These were festive clothes, elaborate, ornate, and expensive. You might think of them as suits or tuxedos, something like that. Yeah, something really nice. Formal wear, okay?
And they said to him, "Propose your riddle so that we may hear it." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." But they could not tell the answer to the riddle in 3 days.
We understand from studying Samson that he likes words. He likes wordplay. He likes to make riddles. It's just something in his character. He does it over and over again. And he also likes to give names to places, We're going to see that he names several places as well. So he likes words. He's not just a meathead. He's not just a bodybuilding buff. He likes intellectual things as well. Okay. They couldn't tell him the answer to the riddle. But guess what? His wife is going to tell the answer to those 30 Philistines. Because she's not loyal to him. She's a Philistine.
Then it came about on the fourth day that they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband so that he will tell us the riddle, or we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us to impoverish us? Is this not so?"
This is a death threat. A death threat, not just for her, but her family. Will burn you and your father's house. That's not just the house, but that's the household, the family. Will burn your family. You better find out the answer to the riddle. Okay?
So Samson's wife wept in front of him and said, "You only hate me, and you do not love me. You have proposed a riddle to the sons of my people and have not told it to me." And he said to her, "Behold, I have not told it to my father or my mother, so should I tell you?"
That makes sense.
However, she wept before him for 7 days, while their feast lasted.
That's painful to listen to, isn't it?
And, and on the seventh day he told her, because she pressed him so hard. She then told the riddle to the sons of her people.
There you go. He told her, she told them. Wow, that's why you can't tell a secret. It's not a secret if you tell it, right? Okay. Now look what's going to happen. He's going to leave his brand new wife and go back home to his parents. He's so upset with her.
So the men of the city said to him on the seventh day before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion?" And he said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle."
So he's still telling riddles. He's still doing poetry. He's still doing wordplay. He likes to speak in this type of language. And he's real good at it, as you can tell. So now where's he going to get 30 sets of men's formal wear?
Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 men of them, and took what they were wearing and gave the outfits of clothes to those who told the riddle. And his anger burned, and he went up to his father's house.
He killed 30 men and took their clothes, paid his debt to his 30 marriage party companions, and he left her. He left his new wife. He went back home. He's so upset. His anger's burning, But
Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his friend.
the best man got the girl. I guess that's the way they do it in Philistia. So she's given away. He's going to come back for her, but let's keep reading.
But after a while, in the time of wheat harvest, Samson visited his wife with a young goat and said, "I will go into my wife in her room." But her father did not let him enter. Her father said, "I really thought that you hated her intensely, so I gave her to your companion. Is her younger sister not more beautiful than she? Please let her be yours instead."
He said, hey, the younger one is better anyway, so why don't you just get her? He didn't want the younger one.
Samson then said to them, "This time I will have been blameless regarding the Philistines when I do them harm." And Samson went and caught 300 jackals, and took torches and turned the jackals tail to tail, and put one torch in the middle between two tails. When he had set fire to the torches, he released the jackals into the standing grain of the Philistines, and set fire to both the bundled heaps and the standing grain, along with the vineyards and olive groves.
This was a massive agricultural loss for the Philistines. This is when he really begins doing damage to them. He's hurting them financially. Okay? And now he's going to hide. And where's he going to hide? He's going to hide in Judah, the tribe next door.
Then the Philistines said, "Who did this?" And some said, "Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he took his wife and gave her to his companion." So the Philistines came up and burned her and her father to death with fire.
They burned her and her father's house anyway. Poor girl. Yeah. Wow. They burned her and her father to death with fire. Wow. Okay.
Then Samson said to them, "If this is how you act, I will certainly take revenge on you, and only after that will I stop."
Now they're just going back and forth now. It's tit for tat. It's you did me, I do you. Here we go, back and forth.
So he struck them ruthlessly with a great slaughter. And afterward he went down and lived in the cleft of the rock of Edom. Then the Philistines went up and camped in Judah and spread out in Lehi.
So we don't really know the details, but ruthlessly with a great slaughter. And then he went and hid. He didn't go back home to the tribe of Dan. He went next door to the tribe of Judah. He hides in this cave or cleft of a rock, and the Philistines come after him. And they're camping now in the territory of Judah. And Judah doesn't like that. They don't want the Philistines coming into their territory. So what are the Judeans going to do?
So the men of Judah said, "Why have you come up against us?" And they said, "We have come up to bind Samson in order to do him as he did to us." Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Edom and said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then is that you have done to us?"
Wow, they were so used to being under the control of the Philistines. They were trying to talk Samson into allowing them to continue to rule. Why are you doing this, Samson? They're our rulers. Don't buck the system. Don't rock the boat. They're in control of us. Why are you antagonizing the Philistines, Samson?
And he said to them, "Just as they did to me, so I have done to them." Then they said to him, "We have come down to bind you so that we may hand you over to the Philistines."
Oh, boy.
And Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not kill me." So they said to him, "No, but we will bind you tightly and give you into their hands, but we certainly will not kill you." Then they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock.
Now, wow, huh? 3,000 Judeans come and bind him because they want the Philistines to get out of their property. And he says, "Okay, you can bind me. Just swear to me that you're not going to kill me, because if you're going to kill me, I'm coming out of these ropes." I'm just telling you right now. And they said, no, we're not going to kill you. So he allowed them to tie him up and to take him to the Philistines.
When he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted as they
Oh, they were so excited. Here comes Samson. He's got ropes on him.
And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him,
Oops.
so that the ropes that were on his arms were like flax that has burned with fire, and his restraints dropped from his hands.
And I bet they stopped shouting and started running.
Then he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey. So he reached out with his hand and took it and killed 1,000 men with it.
1,000 men. That's what a jawbone of a donkey looks like. This is the lower jaw. There's the molars. This would be the front teeth right here on the bottom. So that's the lower jaw. It's a pretty big bone. It's a pretty big structure. He killed 1,000 men with that. I mean, can you imagine? He was just flailing everywhere like a whirling dervish. But piling up all those bodies. How long does it take you to just say hello to 1,000 people, much less kill them? And Samson said, he's coming out with another rhyme, another riddle, another little story, wordplay.
"With the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey, I have killed 1,000 men."
This word heaps here sounds a lot in Hebrew like the word donkey, so it's also a word play on the sound of the word. But yes, he was piling them up. He was piling up the bodies of these men as he was killing them with this jawbone. An amazing supernatural thing, because he was rushed on by the Spirit of the Lord. But now he burns out after 1,000 men.
When he had finished speaking, he threw the jawbone from his hand, and he named that place Ramoth-Lehi.
Ramoth-Lehi means the hill of the jawbone, or jawbone hill. He named it. He gave it a name. He likes words.
Then he became very thirsty, and he called the Lord and said, "You have handed this great victory over to your servant, and now am I to die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?"
He said, Lord, I did everything I could, but there's no water out here. Now help me. Help me, Lord. He's calling out for help. He's desperate.
But God split the hollow place that is in Lehi so that water came out of it.
Amazing.
When he drank, his strength returned, and he revived. Therefore he named the place An Hakor, which is in Lehi to this day. So he judged Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines.
This An Hakor, or Hakore, or however it's pronounced, means the spring of the one who calls out. So he had called out to the Lord. The Lord gave him this spring to drink from. He revived. He didn't die. He felt like he was at the point of death. He's just killed 1,000 men. How long did that take? Took a while. Piled up the bodies. But then he judges Israel for 20 years. Now, this sounds like the end of his life. It's the end of chapter 15. But there's another chapter, chapter 16, which we covered in the adult Bible class. So we're not going to cover it tonight. We're just going to hit the highlights of it. But it does include the end of Samson's life. But it seems like it's an addendum to the story because both chapter 16 and chapter 15 end with this. So he judged Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. So in chapter 16, Samson falls in love with a woman named Delilah, another Philistine woman. The governors of the Philistines find out about Delilah and Samson, and they bribe her with 1,100 pieces of silver to find out his source of strength. Is it magic? Is it something he drinks? Is it some workout routine he's got? How is he able to do these supernatural feats? And she begins to try and find his secret. And he begins telling her answers. At first he says, you can bind me with 7 fresh animal tendons, and I'll be just like every other man. So she puts him to sleep. How does she do that? Well, you figure it out. She puts him to sleep, binds him with 7. She just so happens to have the Philistines bring up 7 young animal tendons, binds him up, ties him. He's sleeping hard. He's a hard sleeper, apparently. And she says, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he wakes up and he busts them off. And she cries, oh, you don't love me. They go through another. And this probably didn't happen all at the same day. He's going back and forth to her. The next time she gets him, she says, Samson, tell me, how can it be done? How can you be bound? He says, bind me with new ropes and I'll be just like every other man. She knocks him out. She binds him with new ropes. She says, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he wakes up and the ropes just pop off. Like, what ropes? And she says, oh, you don't love me. He comes back another day. She says, Samson, how can you be bound so that you can be weak like other men? He says, if you take my 7 locks of my hair and you weave it into a loom where you make material, you weave my hair into the loom and then you fasten it with a pin, whatever that is. He said, I won't be able to do anything. She knocks him out again. That's why I say it's not all at the same time, because there'd be too much sleeping. She does the loom thing. She weaves his hair into this piece of furniture, basically. Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he wakes up and boom, knocks it off again. Oh, you don't love me. 3 times, you don't love me. 3 times he tells her, he's playing with her. But he's giving her answers. And the last one was kind of close because he talked about his hair. Finally, she says, come on, Samson. I'm starting to think I don't like you anymore. How can you be bound? How can you be weakened? And then he says this, a razor has never come on my head, For I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I will become weak and be like any other man. And the Bible says when he said that, she knew it was the truth. I don't know how, probably by the way he spoke about his vow to God. And she knew that was it. She put him to sleep for the fourth time. She calls in the Philistine barber. Samson is hard asleep. They cut off his hair. She says, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he wakes up and he tries to resist them, but he can't because the strength that he had from the Lord is gone. He violated his vow. He didn't cut his hair, but he told somebody that was willing to cut his hair for him, and it made all the difference in the world. It was just as if he had cut it off himself. He should have never told his secret, but he did. And now he's weak, and they are able to bind him. They put him in prison. They gouge out his eyes. They make him grind grain for them. Samson can never harm them again, or so they think. They bring in a big party of Philistines. They come into a big area, big fancy place. They bring in Samson, and he begins to pray to the Lord. And this is what he says.
Then Samson called to the Lord and said, Lord God, please remember me and please strengthen me just this time, O God, that I may at once take vengeance on the Philistines for my 2 eyes.
All right, he knows this is it. He knows he's at his end. He said, this one time, Lord, one time. He knows that there's not much he can do. He's blind. Where can he go? He can't go. He can't even get out of prison. He's got one more shot to do damage to the Philistines. He says, Lord, give me that strength again, and I'm going to do something for Israel right here. Then Samson
grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested and braced himself against them, the one with his right hand and the other with his left. And Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. And he pushed outwards powerfully, so that the house fell on the governors and all the people who were in it. And the dead whom he killed at his death were more than those whom he killed during his lifetime.
So Samson knew that was the end of his ministry for Israel and for the Lord. And he did the best he could up to the very end. He did more killing in his death than he ever did in his life. And now we're going to have a special closing tonight. I'm going to turn the lights down. That didn't really make much difference. But instead of our Bible study to go, I've got a monologue written by Samson, the Riddler judge. They saw the muscles, the hair, the temper, the fire in my eyes, the lone warrior. But I was more than that. I was a riddle wrapped in flesh. The living question that the Lord asked Israel, will you trust your strength or mine? Before I was born, an angel said I'd begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines, not with swords or spears, but with otherworldly power, with riddles, with rage, with the strange plans of God. I killed a lion with my bare hands. Days later, I found honey in its carcass, sweetness from death. So I made a riddle out of it. Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. A riddle, a mystery, a secret. Those Philistines thought they were clever, but they couldn't solve my riddle. But they cheated. They threatened my wife. They squeezed the answer out of her. So I burned their fields with foxes and flames, but they burned her. Pain for pain, fire for fire. They thought they were clever, those Philistines, But I am Samson, and I was sent to be the riddle that they couldn't solve. And then my own people came, not Philistines, my brothers, 3,000 men of Judah, 3,000, not to fight beside me, but to hand me over to the Philistines. Don't you know that the Philistines rule over us, they said? They tied me up, bound me with new ropes, not because I was their enemy, but because I wouldn't bow to the Philistines. I could have fought my brothers for sure, but I let them tie me up because I knew that this fight wasn't about these ropes. It was about what the Lord God would do to the Philistines when these ropes melted away. And when the ropes did melt away, I picked up a donkey's jawbone and I turned it into a sword. 1,000 Philistines fell by jawbone and by judgment, not by armies, not by strategy, but by the hand of one man stirred by the Spirit of God. Nobody understood me, not the Philistines, not Delilah with her kisses and cunning, not Israel, not even my parents, not even myself. I was a walking riddle, one part strength and one part failure. And in the end, blind and broken, I could see more clearly than I had ever seen. The Lord uses the flawed, those who fail, those who break their vows, those who lose their strength. I crushed the Philistines' temple when I was at my weakest. I was a riddle to the very end. The man who killed more Philistines in his death than in his life. I am Samson, the riddler judge, God's mystery, God's hammer. Strong but stumbling, alone but never abandoned, a riddle that Israel still must answer. Will you serve the Philistines or the Lord who breaks their chains? That was a monologue by Samson, the riddler judge. God bless you for joining us tonight. Did I not do this picture? Did I not do that? Oh, well, that was supposed to be there during the monologue. I was too focused on the monologue. But God bless you. Thank you for joining us tonight. That's the end of our Bible study. Next week, Trouble with Dan.